Hello, hello. This is Emma coming in with this little astrology update for the month of May 2023. We are starting here on May 14th, mid-May, halfway through the month. And the biggest news that I'm sure you guys are all super excited for is the fact that Mercury is no longer retrograde. It has gone direct starting at about 11 p.m. tonight. So Monday morning, you will wake up fresh to Mercury moving back into direct motion in the sign of Taurus. But some of you might be wondering, okay, now that that's over, what else is going on? Like, is that the only thing I have to worry about in terms of the cosmos? And I wouldn't say there's really nothing urgent or pressing, but there is some interesting energy going on, sort of like into the end of May into June. And I just wanted to take a moment to debrief that and talk a little bit about some big shifts that might be coming up for you. So one of the biggest things happening is Jupiter, the sign of abundance and expansion and opportunity and just magnifying and blowing things the fuck up, is moving out of Aries and into Taurus. And so what we're going to see through the rest of this year is kind of the story of Jupiter moving into Taurus, touching base, and then when it starts to do its retrograde, it's going to move back into Aries. But this time is going to be like a really huge preview for what Jupiter in Taurus is going to look like. So what makes this so interesting to me is the fact that Jupiter's going to be entering this big expansive planet. It's going to be entering Taurus, which is also where Uranus has been hanging out for a couple of years now. And Uranus is an outer planet. It's more of like a bigger generational thing. It doesn't feel as personal as some of the other planets, but it does bring about big shifts. And Uranus's whole bit is that it's kind of like the wheel of fortune. It's this big spinning wheel. We don't know where it's going to stop. We don't know what it's going to bring. It's revolutionizing. It's changing. It's turning over. And so when the sign of expansion and opportunity is meeting up with this unpredictable energy, to me, this feels like a portal. This feels like an opportunity to try something new, to engage in something different. You might see doors opening, opportunities happening, and you don't know where they're going to lead. And for some people, that is terrifying. For other people, though, that can be kind of exciting to know that, there's things around the corner and we don't know where they're going to land. So if you are going to be entering anything new, or if you do see these like opportunities popping up in your life, it's okay if you feel a little, I don't want to say uncertain, but if you're not sure about their outcome, because I don't think anyone's super certain about the path that's coming ahead of us with this Jupiter entering Taurus, co-present with Uranus. So if you know your birth chart, look at the sign that Taurus, or not the sign, the house that Taurus rules. And this is likely where this, you've probably been feeling a little bit of turbulence in that house because of Uranus being there, but this is where the opportunity likely would manifest for you. And then moving on, another big ingress is going to be Mars entering Leo. So this is exciting because for about the past, I would say, month and a half, Mars has been in Cancer, and it does not function well in Cancer. Cancer is so much more of a nurturing, protective type of energy, and Mars wants to separate. It wants to go. It wants to take action. So like they're just not quite well aligned. And earlier this year in March, we actually had a big shift with Mars where it finally left the sign of Gemini. And it had been in Gemini since October, so for about 6 months or so, which is very unusual for Mars because usually it's in a sign for about a month and a half. So 6 months, that's like a long time to be hanging out in Gemini. And the reason why this happened is because Mars had its retrograde there. So we had this like huge container of Mars and Gemini of like picking up resources, getting curious, investigating, bopping around, not staying still, kind of being like if you have ADHD, it would have like felt very ADHD. And then it moved into Cancer, where it pretty much, all that momentum, all that stuff that was building in Gemini pretty much just like sat still, like it sort of decreased. And I feel like I'm not the only one who would say that these past, I don't know, month and a half has felt kind of low energy, you know? And so luckily when Mars moves out of Cancer, it's going to be entering the fire sign of Leo. So Mars is going to be ready to fucking go. Like, it is here for it. So I feel like it's going to be a great like breath of fresh air. It's going to be kind of like a bursting. One thing I should mention though is it's going to start squaring that Jupiter in Taurus that I talked about earlier, because both Taurus and Leo are fixed signs. So they're like 90 degrees from each other. So I feel like this opportunity that might be blossoming in Taurus might be activated a lot by this Mars and Leo, and it might be a little bit more agitating. You know, we know Leos, they can be a little dramatic, they can be a little performative. So things might feel like they have that energy as these two planets square each other. Things might feel a little bit more dramatic, but luckily Mars, like I said, it doesn't stay in a sign for too long. So this is only going to be probably like a month container that we're going to be in, where things feel a little bit more dramatic, and then they'll pass and we'll still have that Jupiter and Taurus hanging out. So don't get too scared away from it. Things might be feeling big, but it's all right. But what I also love too is the fact that Venus currently is in Cancer, and it's going to be hanging out in Cancer as well. So like all of that turbulence, all of that muck that Mars maybe brought up in Cancer, in the sign that rules Cancer, Venus is here to kind of like smooth it over and kind of, repair any wounds that a very afflicted Mars in Cancer likely created. So we have that healing energy coming in, and then coming up in just a few days, mid-May, every single year, we have the sun entering Gemini. And this typically, because it happens every year, the sun goes through all the signs. So it's not that, big of a magnitude. But what I think is really interesting is it's following that extended stay Mars had in Gemini. And then Venus was just in Gemini as well, kind of like, again, doing a little bit of that repair work as it follows behind Mars. And so now I see this role of the sun moving into Gemini as being kind of like a return to that focus that we had back in like October, back over the winter, like when we were investigating and picking up all this information with Mars and Gemini, that kind of all has been at a standstill. And so I think the sun moving into that sign is really going to reinvigorate sort of the pieces that you've been collecting from October to March. And that Mars in Gemini vibe is going to kind of be brought back into focus. Maybe some of the lessons that you've learned from that period, you might have a clearer idea of how you want to move forward as well. So I think that's going to bring a lot of consciousness, which I'm kind of excited to see, because I know personally I've been really feeling everything that's been happening in Gemini. So I'm ready for a little bit more direction in that aspect. So that is the upcoming astrology for the end of May up into June. I would love to hear how this is manifesting for you. What's coming up for you? Is this on target? Is this on brand? Is this on point? Definitely reach out. You can always find me on Facebook and Instagram at the.emma.martins. Very simple, just my name with some dots in between. And then also, if you're like, I hear all this, I'm feeling this, I want to look into my chart, I want to see what's going on, we can set up a coaching session for sure. So not only am I an astrologer, but I'm a certified life coach, and my whole thing is about rooting people back to their core mission, rooting people into their own personal mission statement, and just like building such a strong relationship with ourselves. And astrology is a super great tool to tap into that. So If you want to go deeper into your chart and you need a little help, you need someone there, definitely book a free call with me. You know, it all starts there. We could figure out what your goals are, and then we could figure out what makes sense in terms of us working together. So totally low stakes. But I would love to chat with you guys, whether you drop into my DMs and tell me how this resonated, or you decide to book a call with me. Either way, would love to hear how this is hitting for you. And yeah, I don't know. I never know how to end these things. But thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Bye.